Hello everyone, my name is Sydney Hendel and I am a part of the Compart Family Farms digital media team. I'm a videography specialist and I was put in charge of creating a video of me interviewing someone and editing it. So I chose to do Corey Geiger while I was at the National Holstein Convention. He is an editor for Hoard's Dairyman and is the president of the board for Holstein USA. Getting to interview Corey was an amazing experience for me. I have been a part of the Holstein breed my entire life, and just to hear from his standpoint, it is amazing to see where the Holstein breed is going to be in 5 to 10 years. I hope you guys enjoy the video.
So, Corey Geiger, I'm on my second year as serving as president of Holstein USA, and the leadership traditions at our Holstein, the vice president would serve a 2-year term as well, so I did that role. We're in a unique time with the health pandemic, so we rolled all the terms of the officers, all 12 national directors and the vice president and president, who the delegates elect. So we'll all be serving an extra term. We're going to have a delegate, so we'll be electing 2 new directors here at the 2021 National Convention in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. The directors for Holstein Association USA served 2 3-year terms, so that's how I started out. I served 2 3-year terms. I was a large director. Holstein Association USA has 9 regions and then 3 at-large directors. In addition, I've been at Hoard's Dairyman now 26 years, been on the editorial team, leading it since 2013. We've, over the years, we have a Japanese edition, a Spanish edition. In 2017, I was in the middle of it all when we launched our Chinese edition and worked quite a bit with the team that owns Hoard's Dairyman China over in Beijing. Our family had a dairy farm for many years, up until a couple of years ago when my dad passed away. And my wife's family is very involved in the dairy industry as well, and we're the first in the United States to put robots in. So those are some of the things that I'm involved with, and I always tell people, if you do what you enjoy, you never are working a day in your life. It's a humbling experience because really your fellow breeders and delegates elected me to guide the future of the association, seek counsel and input from our directors, make the best decision for the future. And some of those decisions we make take years to come to fruition. For example, when I was coming to the end of my term as a director, this is well over 6 years ago, we made a decision as a board of directors to take $7 million out of the reserve fund and invest in a new IT system, intellectual technology. And we're probably by this end of this year that's going to be brought online. What does that mean to a member, really? A new computer system, But that means a new registration interface. That means a streamlined ear tagging system. That means we laid new groundwork for Enlight and all the genomic services that come through. The Holstein, I tell people, is the most studied domestic animal on the planet. We know more about her than any other species. It's approaching over 4 million genomic tests on Holsteins in the United States. So we can use that and harness it to make future improvements. Another thing that we did, probably while I was towards the end of my term as a director, of course, later serving as vice president and president, was starting the research grants where university scientists could apply for grant money with the goal of studying something specific, generally genetic related, to enhance the Holstein breed. And so we've got 3 projects underway. We do grant each year. And one of them is looking at the slick gene. Now, if you're in a northern climate, that's not a big deal, but if you're in Florida, or a humid climate of the southeast part of the United States, a slick gene would be a Holstein with really a lot shorter hair coat and an ability to handle heat stress better. And the Holstein's a global animal. So last year there were all the bull studs in the United States exported 29 million units of semen. 92% of that was Holstein. So we have a lot of people around the world that are interested in what we're doing here in America. So slick gene is one. We got a research grant at the University of Wisconsin-Madison that's looking, there's cows that double ovulate, and if they double ovulate, the chances of them having twins is a lot higher. And some of the preliminary work there is that they have lower progesterone levels than a normal Holstein cow. Well, if that holds true in this study, we could start testing cows for progesterone secretion and really develop a trait to predict double ovulation. Obviously, cows that have twins usually have more health problems. There's just a whole lot of different things that happen there. And then we're doing some work with Penn State that's pretty preliminary on some other feed efficiency work here, which is a buzzword in our industry, of course, and for good reason. Feed costs is the most expensive area. Mm-hmm. I think, we got some projects we're going to get started here too, and so it takes some of in today's day and age, some projects you start today may not bear fruit for 5, 6, 7 years, and not all of them turn out to be winners. The world continues to evolve. What I do know is this: consumers want to know more about their food than ever before. Mm-hmm. And I think those farmers, no matter what cow they know, the more they know about their cows, they know about their pedigrees, they know about the ancestry, they know about the components that cow makes, they'll generate more revenue on their farm. And ultimately, a lot of people talk about sustainability. However, on a family farm, an economic sustainability is the most important factor. And then everybody, consumers have a different version of that as well. I think it's remarkable. For the last 40 years, our fat is back. Dairy fat is back, animal fats are back. The fats in avocados are in vogue because they're healthy fats. In the last 10 years, the U.S. averaged about 3.65% butter fat. So I would say there's a lot of evidence that shows about 85% of the cows in the United States are Holstein. We went 3.65 to 3.95% butter fat in just a 10-year window. And we did that because we had good information, we had good genetics, and we could find the things we needed to move the population and meet consumer demand. And that consumers both here and around the world, we're almost exporting 18% of our milk through dairy products these days. So, the cow is evolving. The way Holstein works with dairy farmers evolves. Back when I was a junior member of the association, it had almost 300 employees. Well, everything was on paper. Mm-hmm. Now we're electronic. We got 95 employees as of today. So these interfaces, how we interact with one another, will continue to evolve. One of the biggest electronic devices on farms is the smartphone. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of farms looking things up cow side, and that's how they consume their information and make herd management decisions. And I think the more user-friendly we make that, the more we find and the more we store on each individual's farmer's cows, they can make better decisions. So I think the future is bright. And there are a lot of, so the average herd size in the United States is about 300 cows if you look at the USDA data. And there are farmers that are way above that now that are either coming back to registered Holsteins or starting their journey with them because they see value. And we have so many different tools that we didn't have when I was a junior member. Between sex semen, you can almost make the pregnancies you want. Because of that, you don't need all the heifer calves because you're making more of them. You can sort through them from genomics, and you can really make a lot more herd progress as a group on the female side than we ever. Everything was driven on the male side before that, and the males still contribute a great part, but the females are doing a lot more. So if you're going to use all those tools, the registered Holstein cow is going to be part of that. This is, and we're on the eve of announcing our distinguished junior members tonight. It's an interesting question. I was what you would call a late bloomer. The farm we moved on, and when I was a youth, my parents bought it from, it was my mom's family farm. And we pretty much, it was mostly family labor, And it wasn't until I was about 15 years old that I ever showed at State Fair or went to a Junior Holstein Convention. Some of my friends convinced me that it was fun. And so I went along, and I found a lot of people with like interests. Mm-hmm. And so that kind of got me excited. And I was in Dairy Bowl. I didn't fill out my first Distinguished Junior Member application until I was a freshman in college. So you can say I was a late bloomer, and I got so excited about it. One night we were milking cows with my dad, and I said, if I ever get selected as a DJM semifinalist, we're going to take a vacation as a family. And up until that point, somebody from our family was always at every milking, mm-hmm. whether it was mom and dad left and I was there, or one of our, either my mom or dad. So, well, lo and behold, I did win. I earned a trip to Rochester, New York, and it would have been 1994, and was fortunate enough to be named a DJM, Distinguished Junior Member. And I think that was a launch pad for a lifetime of service to the dairy industry. Well, I think accomplishments you really see after a draft, or you see seasons later, really was that a good decision? How did it play out? I talked a little bit about Project Elevation, which is the information technology system, is one of them that started years ago and is bearing fruit. Research grants are another. I think more immediately, though, to the question you raised, right before COVID became in our lexicon, we had our board meeting in Washington, D.C., where we made Capitol Hill visits, and we asked directors who were comfortable doing that to come along. And so that was really fruitful. We met, I think, with 18 different either senators or representatives. What was abundantly clear is they wanted to hear from dairy farmers. They wanted to hear from those that were working on the farm and hear what were their concerns. We met at that time with Colin Peterson also, who was chair of the House Ag Committee. There's other committees that are important. So having those kind of relationships, I think, and getting Holstein active in that part more frequently will be good for our members, because you need a relationship. You just can't come when there's a problem. Vice President Jonathan Lamb and I have been looking at our committee structure, the way the bylaws are of the Holstein Association. The president really appoints committees, and Jonathan is, I always said I was apprentice in training when I was vice president, and so Jonathan, our tradition here is in the association that no one really runs against the incumbent vice president. They're elected as president. So we've been looking to add a little bit more diversity to our committees. And what does diversity mean in the Holstein Association? More women, some younger Holstein members here, and really spread that out and look at that by region of the country. And I think we'll get more diversity of opinion. Quite frankly, navigating COVID-19 during the beginning of the pandemic, the Northeast was probably as locked down as any part of the country, and the Northeast being Vermont and Massachusetts, Connecticut, New Hampshire. And so keeping our office open, getting work done, I mean, just kind of triage. Coming out of this year, I count that as an accomplishment. And then one of the things we did do right before this all happened, where our industry is evolving, and we've had a long tradition in the association, and my wife and I were co-chairs of the 2019 convention in Wisconsin, of having states host conventions. That's going to look different in 2024. National is going to take that part over, because assembling a group of fundraisers and then assembling a group of meeting planners and assembling a group, all these groups, they're very unique talents. So we're still going to move that national convention around the country, but we're going to have people that do this all the time, and people that work on events like Young Dairy Leaders Institute work on that more. And I think it'll still look like the same convention. It'll be a lot less work for the state that's hosting it. So those are some things that we've worked on, and we got some other things I want to do in my final year here.
Nice.
So that is so simple. If you enjoy what you do, it's not work. The other thing I will tell you, in the fall of 1995, I took a full-time job at Hoard's Dairyman. I was a full-time student at University of Wisconsin-Madison, and I learned to be uber organized. I would write down what needed to happen that week. I would look at the horizon, what projects I'd have to start getting the ball rolling, and then which ones really needed, like, oh, I got to get these done this week. And that was like depth charge of organizational management, and it has served me so well to juggle. And like I come back to, if you like what you're doing, you get it done. Last week I was interviewed by a journalist who's been a television anchor for almost 4 decades in the Green Bay, Wisconsin market, and he asked, when do you find time? And well, you make the time. You make the time for the priorities in your life. So.